My name is Kenny Dyal, and I want to welcome you to the Scuba Diving channel. This channel is for anybody that is aquatically inclined or just aquatically curious. All right, so I feel a little weird announcing this one because it's the interview of me. So I'll talk about James. James is in the Inc. 5000 growing companies. He has a B2B podcast called Sweetfish Media. He also interviews me on my personal story, which is starting a dive shop from scratch, and then a little over 4 years later selling that dive shop, and then that story led me to where I am now. I got to learn a lot along the way. James interviews me on teaching and shops and how you make a successful dive shop. Definitely some life lessons along the way. So I hope you enjoy this interview.
So Kenny, you were telling me the other day that a dive shop can be started with very little capital.
I didn't just wake up and decide I'm going to put a dive shop right there tomorrow. I started by teaching privately. I taught out of my house. I used a local pool. I know a lot of people have done that and do that successfully. So I built up a little bit of a following. Now, it was only a couple of years. I can't underscore enough how the relationships and the bonds that I formed with people through doing that led to the people that it took to help me make it happen. So yes, I did start a dive shop with very little capital, but I couldn't have done it without the people surrounding me. Yeah. So that little army that you built starts with that first scuba class. Yeah. So when you go out there and you meet, the people not only in your class, but in the training agencies and the local shops and the local dive sites and the boat captains and all through the spectrum, that's where your relationships form. And law enforcement and firefighters and Girl Scouts and marina owners that let us use pools, and it took all that to sort of build up. I guess it really built a following and then help.
How do you create the community and the vibe that took you a couple years to build up, even if you do have some capital coming into it?
It's all about finding the right people, form alliances. If you think you can do it on your own, that will be what sinks your ship. For me, what worked and what really took off were finding people that were connected in the local colleges. Because a lot of colleges will either have a scuba diving program or have a scuba diving program as a tandem course that might, coincide with some sort of marine biology course or something like that.
You've talked to me before, Kenny, about understanding why your customers come into the shop.
If you can understand and get into the shoes, the mindset, and behind that initial spark, whatever that was that brought that customer into your store, like that is the key, that's the secret. People want an escape. They work their 9 to 5s so that they can get out of that office, get out of that routine, get off that construction site. They want to access another world. Remember, you're the anti-9 to 5. So you can't be busy behind your desk doing paperwork and I'll be right with you, you're undoing a box. All that stuff is secondary to the relationship. The relationship is your lifeline.
Let's pretend that sitting right here is a guy who's owned their shop for a couple years. They didn't come out of the gate doing this kind of stuff. They want to create more of a community vibe. What are some tangible things they can do in the next month to start changing the culture of their shop?
You've got to be excited about whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
So that's the first step. Figure out what you like to do or what it is you can do that you can at least enjoy and find elements of that you like.
What was that for you?
I like the activities that surrounded the dives. You're going to have to go back to a lot of places you've been quite recently, quite a few times, quite frequently, that are just no longer exciting for you anymore. So you can't control that. You can't just suddenly make this exciting again.
Yeah.
What you can do is make your routine around it exciting. That's when you make your connections with the people at the dinner table, on the car rides, particularly on international trips when you all, end up almost not making it home or something from some excursion. This is what I remember.
You hate utilitarianism.
Yes.
Talk to me about that.
When I say I hate utilitarianism, the big thing for me was not only why did I want to go into a dive store, but what did I like about it? I remember the smells. I remember it was cool looking. But I thought, why not make this? This should really almost be an experience, a show. As soon as you walk in, it should feel nice. It should have nice music. It should look good. The way you structure your store should really be experience-based. When I got ready to open, people said, oh, you want everything as bright as you can, you want indoor, outdoor carpet, because people are going to be dragging wet tanks through, and they're going to come slopping wet, especially you're over by the coast, the boat cleaners are going to come slopping in, and you want to be able to see everything, and you want as much space from floor to ceiling as you can so you can maximum retail out there. That was pretty common. I disagree with all that. It's all about, your colors, your lighting. What we didn't do is crowd the walls. We wanted it to feel clean. We didn't want the clutter feel. We just didn't want sale ads and all that stuff all over the place. Even the boards we used, instead of using a white board or a chalk, we used a light board. It gave it some glow. We got rid of the ugly lights. We blacked out the ceiling. It made it feel more deep. These are things that, cost pennies. But taking it a step further, going to the back of your store, not just the classroom, but the back, the work area, the rental area, the fill station. The show quality went from front to back. It didn't matter where they went. The bathroom had thematic photos in it. Utilitarianism is what 9-to-5 jobs are.
Yeah.
These are not escape jobs. So when you come in and it's clean and it looks otherworldly, even in the back, the workbench, we had glowing lights under it where the tools were. They weren't necessary. It looked like you're going to work on space equipment back there. Is that necessary? Of course not. Was it that hard to do? No. People would compliment it and say, I just feel better about coming here. It indicates that you value what you're doing. And so don't be scared to do something that maybe isn't utilitarian, but just looks better.
Yeah. So dive shop owners make this massive mistake of thinking that they've got to discount everything to try to get people in the door. Why is that the wrong approach?
If that's what you feel you need to do to make more money, you've probably missed the mark already. Remember why they're coming there. They want the lifestyle.
Yeah.
They want the lifestyle, they want the escape. Sales and ads talk money. The quickest way to sober someone up is to talk money.
Yeah.
The most successful places I see have just kick-ass social media. An epic picture. There's someone's diving, there's just killer shot or whatever. And you're like, man, I might not ever dive there, but now I'm excited. I want to go talk to them. I want to go in there. If you do that and you set up the lifestyle and you are getting people excited to go diving, for me to go diving and to connect that dot requires sales. We all need it. We need equipment to go do the thing we want to do. If you are creating that desire, the sales will come.
Yeah. What are you looking for whenever you're going to make your next hire?
Someone that can make the connection with the person walking in the door, that person calling, or even emailing. A positive personality that is problem solving, listens to the customer. You can train scuba diving. You can train them different regulators. You can train them how to fill tanks. You can train them to help you on the dives. And they may already be doing that when you find them. That's where I discovered most of them in the dive classes. But hiring somebody is really about finding a personality that you would love to have if you walked in as a customer and maybe you were cranky that day. Or you're clueless, you're nervous, you're like, oh man, they're gonna think I'm not very cool, and like I don't know anything.
I want to talk about the industry of diving. I've heard you mention to me that it is very, very fragmented. What are your thoughts on that?
It's a small community to begin with. It takes a lot to be able to get certified and to get comfortable and to find people to go with and maintain that. We do have a very necessary element, and that are agencies. There is PADI, which is an agency. There is NAUI, there's SSI, there's STI, there's tons of them. Each one of these sets up the curriculum, they set the standards, they basically regulate the teaching curriculum and the certifications. But where the fragmentation comes from is when you dedicate only to a specific agency and then you either frown upon another one.
And this is a dive shop.
A dive shop. It's okay to be an agency and it's okay to have a favorite. I have a favorite. I got friends with all of them. And some of these guys, I've learned from every one of them, and we go on trips together, and that should never be a barrier. But really, the consumers out there and the person that's not even certified yet, they don't care. They want to get certified. They want to go diving.
Yeah.
Make sure that you, again, are ushering them into that world as smoothly as possible.
What about gear?
What I like to do and what I have found, I like this. That's okay. And someone said, well, I like that. Great. What I found works great, form an alliance with a shop that might sell or carry or service something that you either don't want to or don't have the ability to. It might seem counterintuitive to go to your competition, but your competition is not the dive industry.
Your competition is all of the other things that people do to escape their 9 to 5.
Exactly. We're not the only escape out there.
Yeah. I've heard you talk about this dangerous practice, leaving out a link in the chain.
You can't leave any element out if you're going to be successful. And you may not be able to start out doing all this, but you eventually need to get there. And what I mean by having all the links in the chain, it's really like the life cycle. If you ever look at like the caterpillar, the cocoon, then the butterfly, if you remove one of those, the animal dies, right? So the life cycle of the dive shop is you've got someone that comes in to get scuba certified. They're gonna need a next class, have that advanced, that nitrox, that rescue. But the links in the chains are not only the classes, you've got to have the dives. You've got to have the equipment. Make sure you have the equipment if they want it. It needs to be there. Or they go elsewhere, they find another dive, and you broke the life cycle.
Yeah. Kenny, I've heard you talk a lot about people that start scuba businesses as a hobby. Why do you advise against that so much?
To do it right, you've got to be organized. You've got to have systems in place. You've got to have a structure. You've got to have a discipline. You've got to have some business sense. And you've got to understand in the beginning that it's going to be real work. It's going to be hard work. There's going to be days where it pushes your limits. If you do all that stuff in the beginning and get all those systems hammered out and treat it like a business, a real business. Now, that's not saying don't have fun, but the business side, the organizational, the finances.
You have told me, I mean, the business has to come first.
Business has to come first. Most dive shops fail. Most dive shops that don't fail are not successful. They are at a loss or a neutral revenue. The successful dive shops treat it as a business, and that is just everywhere. It's a lot of work. It takes a lot of training. It takes a lot of experience to take people to these places and do this. For every 1% that people see, there's 99% leading up to that. To do it as a hobby, there's no reason to take on that level of business, in my opinion.
That level of stress.
It's a load.
Anything else you want to touch on here?
I think it really goes back to if you want to have a successful dive community, whether you're a dive shop, you're an independent instructor, you're a dive charter, you're an aquarium that runs a dive program, if you're any dive operation, you know, you're a destination. Don't let yourself get ensnarled with regular workplace stuff. Remember, you're otherworldly, be otherworldly. If you want the full-length, uncensored interview, go to sweetwaterscuba.com.